Hello, and welcome back to another video on this channel. So this video is going to be a little bit different because normally I do videos about Drag Race, but this time I decided to do a rejudging of Project Runway Season 21. You may ask why? Because Utica from RuPaul's Drag Race Season 13 was one of the contestants and was incredibly mistreated and robbed, so I want to give her the flowers she deserves. Also, I want to clarify, I will be referring to Utica as Ethan, since he was competing out of drag, using his government name. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, in the first 3 episodes of a season, they were working in teams, creating fashion houses, which I really did not like. I mean, I would be okay with that if it lasted for only 1 episode, but 3 was definitely too much. But basically, 3 designers from the winning house were in the top, and 3 designers from the losing house were in danger of going home. That means if you slayed, but your house lost, you won't be in the top, and the best placement you can get is safe. So they were split into 2 houses, and in the first team we had Ethan, Jesus, VJ, Yuchin, Alex, and Angelo. And in the other team we had Antonio, Joan, Casey, Joseph, Madeline, and Belania. The theme was villains versus Disney princesses, and House of Villains ended up winning, which I do think was correct. Angelo, VJ, and Alex were made safe, and in the top 3 we had Ethan, Jesus, and Yuchin. I decided not to change that, but I was considering putting Alex in the top over one of them because she also did a stellar job this week. Ethan won the challenge, which I obviously agree with. His look was a showstopper, all the elements worked well together, and the model looked incredible. From the losing team, Antonio, Casey, and Joseph McCrae ended up in the bottom 3, which I definitely agree with. Their looks were hands down the weakest, so Belania, Joan, and Madeline are still going to be safe. So out of the bottom 3, Joseph McCrae was absolutely the least bad, and I knew it was between Casey and Antonio. To be honest with you, I thought they were going to save Casey and send one of the twins home first because he was acting a bit cocky, and so I was like, okay, now watch him go home first. When I found out that it is Casey's second try, and previously she went home first, I was hoping she would get a redemption, but sadly it didn't happen and she went home first again. It was devastating because she seemed really nice, but I do think it was a correct choice. It was just too much going on, and the dress looked messy. The top part wasn't that bad, but the bottom part was really underwhelming. Unfortunately, she is still going to go home first, and now it is time for the second episode, in which the runway theme was Workout to Weekend. They were still working as teams, and Ethan won an advantage and decided that Jesus and Madeline are switching houses. The runway team was called Workout to Weekend, and this time I changed only 1 placement. I agree with the fact that Ethan's house lost the challenge, and for that reason I kept Ethan safe, but if they were judged as individuals, he very easily could have been high, or even the winner. But yeah, originally Jesus snatched the win, and I do think it was deserving. His runway look was my favorite as well, so he is still taking the win, but originally in the top we had Belania and Joseph McCrae. I kept Belania high, however I don't think Joseph deserved that high spot this episode. I would agree with either Joan or Antonio taking it, and at the end I decided to give it to Antonio. After they called him and Joan safe, they said something like, "By the way, Antonio, we basically hated your look, so get it together, sweetie." After hearing that I was like, oh, I see. So, he is going to be your punching bag. In my opinion, his runway was very on theme and very cool. I don't understand why they didn't like it. So yeah, this time in the top 3 we have Jesus, Belania, and Antonio, and in the bottom 3 we have Alex, VJ, and Angelo. To be honest with you, I absolutely love VJ's dress. I think this is so pretty but not fully on theme, so I understand why she ended up low. As I said, the dress is really cool but you cannot really work out in it. This time it was between Alex and Angelo, and I mean, it was pretty clear that Alex was going to go home. I agree with Joan. Her look looked unfinished, and you also cannot work out in it. So yeah, Angelo for sure did better, which means Alex is still going to go home second, and it's time for episode 3, in which the runway theme was making boring brilliant. Ethan and Jesus won the first two challenges, so now they were the team captains and created a brand new fashion houses. Ethan's house once again lost the challenge, which I do agree with, and from the winning house, Belania and the twins did the best, so they are in the top 3, as they were originally. Belania ended up taking the win, which was deserved. It looked very expensive and the silhouette was really cool. I really liked her work from that week. In the bottom 3 we had Ethan, Joan, and Angelo, which was totally understandable. I mean, Joan was there by default. She was definitely the third worst in the challenge, but I still liked her runway look if I'm being honest. Also, I want to give an honorable mention to Joseph McCrae, because it was definitely his best episode. He plays safe because his team lost, but he would have been a contender for the win if they weren't judged in teams. Angelo and Ethan were in the bottom 2, and many people thought Utica should have been eliminated, which I do not agree with. It wasn't her best work, but it was at least something more interesting than what Angelo did. The silhouette was ugly, and it just did not look good. I was convinced they were going to send Utica home, especially because they wanted her to be in drag that episode, but thankfully she survived. Unfortunately, we have to say goodbye to Angelo, and now it's time for the Unconventional Materials Challenge. As you can see, this is the first time in this video where we have a different winner of the challenge. Originally, the win went to Utica, which I personally don't agree with. Let me just say, I absolutely adore this man, and he was one of my favorite designers from this season, but you cannot convince me that this look is better than this butterfly masterpiece. Once again, Ethan got robbed in the Unconventional Materials Design Challenge. It probably was one of his strongest looks, although he really ate almost every single time, so it's really hard to tell. But yeah, I definitely think he deserved to win this challenge. I also don't agree with VJ placing high this episode. Her shuttlecock dress was cute, but nothing special. I would say she was like my 5th favorite, and the person I decided to put in the top over her is Antonio. He was in the bottom 3 this episode, probably because they forced the safe people to vote someone out, and probably wanted them to separate the twins for the drama. I loved what he did this week. It's just stunning, and it was my 2nd favorite look of the night. I saw online that many people hate the twins, and honestly I was kind of surprised by that. I mean, yeah, they were annoying sometimes, but at the same time, the judges were treating Antonio like shit, so I thought they would call him robbed or something. But anyways, since Antonio is not in the bottom, we have to put someone else there, and that is Madeline. She was such a sweetheart, and was also one of my favorite designers from the season, but she low-key bombed this challenge. Madeline was convinced she was going to be in the bottom, and, to be honest, so was I. She got saved, which I didn't mind. Since, as I said, I absolutely adore this woman, but I can't argue with the fact that she did deserve to be in the bottom this episode. Joseph McCrae once again was there by default, and because of the twist, he is still going home, which is very sad. I don't see them voting for Madeline instead because she was getting along with everybody, so I think Joseph would still be the target. If it was a regular format, I would send Joan home. She's yet another kind and sweet person who I absolutely adore, but her and Madeline were pretty equally bad, and Ethan said on his review that Joan's look was hurting the model. But well, Joseph McCrae is still gonna go home, and we will be moving on to the next episode, where the theme was companion piece to Unconventional. Here I agree with every single placement. VJ did very well this episode. The dress looked really chic, and it was a great episode for her. Again, if they gave the win to Ethan, I also would agree with that, since the dress he made was amazing as well. I don't get it why they didn't like the reveal. Maybe they just said it to justify not giving him the win, I don't know. But as I said, I do agree with VJ taking the win. Jesus is still going to be in the top, as he was originally. I definitely saw the cohesion between the two looks, and he elevated the second one very well. Joan's look was the definition of safe, but she redeemed herself, which was nice to see. I am actually obsessed with Utica's runway look from this episode. Unfortunately, I couldn't put him high, but if he only elevated the skirt, he would have been in the top 3 over Jesus. That means in the bottom we have Belania, Antonio, and Madeline. The judges had yet another opportunity to send Antonio packing, and they ended up saving him. I really did not like the top part of the look, but the pants were nice. As you can see, I agree with him staying over Madeline, but if he was sent home, I wouldn't say it was rigged. Unfortunately, Madeline is still gonna go home this episode, which is sad because she is such a kind soul, and I would love her to stay, but sadly I agree with her elimination. Now, let's talk about Belanya for a second. I knew she was gonna survive, since what she made wasn't that bad, but the judges called her out for her attitude, which pissed me off. She was mad, rightfully so, because her model was sick and they didn't have a backup model in a similar size on standby, so she had to change the dress size at the last minute. After she said that, they were like, "That's not an excuse. Literally shut up, because what was she supposed to do?" But okay, now let's talk about the dress. I do not like the top part, since I do think it was just ugly, but the bottom part actually looks really good. So, yeah. She definitely wasn't the worst. Moving on, in the next episode the runway theme was elevated streetwear, and let me tell you, this episode was absolutely wild. Last time they did Belanya dirty, but now they randomly gave her the win, which I'm sorry but was absolutely not deserved. I'm gonna be honest, I almost put her in the bottom too. Her look was definitely one of my least favorite looks on the runway, and to this day I have no clue how did she win. Also, this was the first episode in which they put only 2 people in the top and 2 in the bottom, and I assumed it was going to be the same from this point on. I was wrong, but I'm just going to put 2 people high and 2 people low starting from this episode on because that just seems right to me. So Antonio originally placed high, which I absolutely agree with. The runway was stunning and all worked really well together, and the purse is literally amazing. I just love it. However, Ethan really deserved to win this week. It was something we have never seen before. It was very cool and impressive, and despite what some people are saying, yes, it was on theme. It was streetwear, so I couldn't believe he was just safe this episode. If 3 people were in the top, I would put their VJ. I really liked what she did too, but since they only put 2 people high, I decided not to change that, so VJ is going to be just safe. I agree with Joan and Yuchin being in the bottom because they were the weakest out of the bunch. Joan's look wasn't actually that bad, but I still think her going home was fair. Yuchin's look was giving streetwear a bit more, and yes, it was simple, but other designers also made simple stuff throughout the season, and didn't go home because of that. He had to change his entire concept because he was running out of time, and he managed to make something cool. Unfortunately, Joan is eliminated, and we will be moving on to the country challenge, in which they once again decided to throw Ethan under the bus for absolutely no reason. But first, let's discuss the tops. As I said earlier, I thought only 2 people were going to be high, but they for some reason decided to put 3 of them high again, and also 3 in the bottom. As you can see, once again we have a different winner of the challenge. It might shock you a little bit, but personally I would give the win to Belanya. This look was more on a simple side, but for some reason I really liked it. I don't know, I think it's pretty and it might be a hot take, but I think she should have won. Originally, the win went to Jesus, which I guess I can see. I mean, the coat was show-stopping, but the whole look in my opinion wasn't the strongest. But honestly, this challenge had a clear top 4 and bottom 2. I would literally agree with Belanya, Jesus, Antonio, or Ethan winning, since literally all of them did amazing that week. Since we have only 2 people high, the other top spot I decided to give to Antonio. Personally, I think he did a tiny bit better than Ethan and Jesus, but as I said, I would agree with any combination. Unfortunately, Yuchin and VJ flopped. Neither of these 2 looks were giving country, and I definitely agree with them being in the bottom. Honestly, I think Yuchin's dress is a bit more on theme than VJ's. I think the horns were supposed to be the main focus of the look, which I think was a clever idea, but the execution wasn't fully there. I'm sorry to say that, but the dress just does not look good, and the only part one like about this outfit is the hat. Speaking of hats, I think in VJ's look the hat was the only thing that was actually giving country. The dress and bodysuit that was underneath wasn't ugly, she just did not really meet the prompt. I'm gonna be honest with you, I was praying for Yuchin to stay over VJ, and I think it would be justifiable. However, I agree with VJ surviving, which unfortunately means we have to say goodbye to Yuchin. We have our top 5 and the first change in the elimination order. Originally, no one went home this episode, which was weird, and after this episode, one was like, oh, they really want Belania to be in the finale. But first, let's discuss the tops of the week. Antonio finally won the challenge, which obviously was correct. He really devoured, and no one even came close. I loved the look, the reveal, I loved everything. But what's even more important, his client really liked it too, which as one of the judges said was the most important. It was so nice to see him snatching the win with a bang. Great job, Antonio. VJ originally placed high, which was random as hell. The theme was out of the town, and I do think VJ met the prompt this time. However, they were also told that the look has to have a reveal. During the critiques, they literally said that it wasn't even a reveal, but just taking the jacket off, yet they still put her high over Ethan, who fully met the prompt, and both VJ's and Ethan's clients were equally happy with the looks they were wearing. Yeah, some shenanigans were in play this episode for sure. I agree with the fact that this wasn't Ethan's best look, but he pleased the client and fully met the prompt, and for that reason he's high this time. I did put VJ safe and not in the bottom, since there's only 2 people in the bottom, and I think we can all agree that Jesus and Belania did the worst. But seriously, this was Belania's stepping point. I did not like the look she constructed, and the reveal also wasn't good. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen on the runway, but it was 100% the worst look of the night. Her client also did not like it, which kinda proves my point. Jesus also did not do great this episode. Personally, I don't think this look was that bad, however, I literally don't know what was he even thinking. I mean, the main point was to please the client, and he was like, yeah, I want to push you out of your comfort zone a little bit. After he said that, I was like, okay, sweetie, you are in the bottom. It was pretty clear from the get-go that Belania and Jesus will be in the bottom, because let's just say, the edit was there. What Jesus did was pretty good though. I think the client liked the pants and the jacket as well, so he at least met his expectations a little bit. It's interesting since I can't really tell if I like the shirt or not. But one thing for sure, if someone went home this episode, it would for sure be Belania. I liked the coat, but what was under it was really underwhelming. So, unfortunately, Belania goes home, and it's time for the last challenge before the finale. The runway theme was wickedly avant-garde, and I decided to give the win to Ethan. It was very close between him and Jesus, but Ethan's look was absolutely breathtaking. I was blown away. It looks very expensive, chic, and perfect. What Jesus did was also incredible. I like the one-shoulder moment, the headpiece. I basically love everything about it. That leaves VJ and Antonio in the bottom 2, but all 4 of them just proved why they deserve to be in the top 4. I liked every single runway look this episode. They all did such a good job. As you can see, I decided to send home VJ. Some of you are probably fuming because that means both twins made it to the finale, but let me explain. As I said, all 4 of them did amazing this week, and I think this is one of VJ's strongest looks. However, the reason I decided to keep Antonio over her is that I think Antonio's look is much more on theme. VJ's look has a very interesting and cool silhouette, but I don't see how is this a wicked-inspired look. I really liked that Jesus and Antonio did like a good witch and a bad witch. The heart on the chest is a really nice cohesion, which I really like. Now you're probably gonna say, well, yeah, but it wasn't a team challenge and they should be judged individually. They are being judged individually, but mainly because they did this hearts on the chest, I automatically understood what they were going for. So if someone showed me these 2 looks and asked which one is giving wicked, I would definitely say this one. So, yeah, unfortunately we have to say goodbye to VJ, and it's time for the grand finale. They had to make their own collection and had like 5 days to do it. One thing for sure, in this timeline someone else will win, since originally VJ ended up winning the season. Both Jesus and Ethan did a great job, and I'm sure Antonio would also do great. The time has come to announce the winner. The winner of Project Runway Season 21 is Ethan. I mean, you can call me biased if you want, but the truth is he demolished the season and hands down deserved to win. All the looks he constructed were show-stopping, and it was nice to see him in his element. Congratulations to Ethan. But also, I want to take a moment to congratulate VJ for taking the win. Even though I personally would give it to Ethan, I will never try to discredit someone's win as long as they're a good person. So, congratulations VJ, you deserve everything in life. Good job, girl. And what do you think? Do you agree with the changes I made? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.